Ladies and gentlemen, I have a confession to make. This is going to be hard for me to say, but I think I'm addicted to playing Earth Machines. Yeah, it's a real problem that I sort of have to get better with. It's something that needs to be fixed, but that's for another day because today we are doing a profile on Earth Machine, M.I.T, Brutal Dozer Control, whatever you want to call it. It has a lot of names, and I've played this deck for about 6 to 7 weeks straight, almost exclusively. And I've had a lot of success with it. So, like last format, I probably won about 3 or 4 box tournaments. I took several first place finishes at our Saturday locals, which is arguably more competitive than our box tournament day. But yeah, I put this deck through the ringer, tested it like very thoroughly, and yeah, I absolutely love this deck, and that's why I continue to play it. It's so fun because it plays such a different Yu-Gi-Oh from so many decks we've seen recently. It plays a very grind game, sort of like just interaction, no negates, and it's super fun to play, and you get to be very explosive but not do anything super degenerate. And I think this deck has some crazy potential going into the this new list that we have. And yeah, I just want to talk about my list and how it's changed from previous iterations, and just explain what I think is going to be good this format and how this deck will interact with it. So if you are a fan of Earth Machine, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Comment down below what you think the deck's going to do this format, what you think would be good, or maybe it will go by the wayside. But without further ado, let's get into the deck profile. Yeah, so I took this deck to a sort of bigger tournament and got top 4 last weekend as well, but I'm not going to upload that profile because we're just going to go with the one for the new ban list. And yeah, this one's going to be much better because it will be so much more relevant and talking about matchups. So we're going to start with 3 Infinite Track Harvester. This is just one of your main starters in the Infinite Track engine. You just want to see it so you can get to your Brutal Dozer and do your full combo. In fact, I have an entire combo video for Earth Machine showing all the combos you can do with this deck, and if you want to check that out, I will leave a link over here so you can check that out and learn more about the deck. So yeah, 3 Harvester is absolutely mandatory. His effective change levels is also super relevant because it's how you're going to be making Enter Blathnir and how you're usually going to make Zeus naturally if the situation arises where that needs to happen. So Harvester, very versatile card, something you definitely want to see, part of your like best first turn combo. And yeah, maxing out at 3 Harvester. And then of course you have to max out at 3 of your Dozer, the namesake if you're going to call it Dozer Control. This card is absolutely bonkers because it's essentially like a +3 or +4 on its own, getting you into more plays, and this is the standard play for Earth Machine, and what everything is based around is seeing Dozer and running through its sort of whole combo. This card, you essentially just tribute an Earth Machine, special summon it, and then it specials an Infinite Track monster from the deck. However, it locks you into Earth Machines for the rest of the turn, which is relevant for, I think, 3 cards in the extra deck. I could be wrong, it might be 4, but it's not a huge deal is what I'm trying to say. You can very easily play around it, but yeah, you have to maximize this as well, and it is your 1-card combo, or Harvester is your 1-card combo because it searches Brutal Dozer, and you have, like, I think 14 1-card starters in this deck. It's something ridiculous, which is part of the deck's power. For the other Infinite Tracks, we have 2 Trencher. This is a extender in Graveyard. You special it off Dozer, you get it in Grave, and you can then special summon because you just banish it from your grave to target an Infinite Track monster and special summon it. It does have to come out in defense, and it also has to have a level, so you can't bring back any Xyzes or Links with it, but it is nonetheless very, very powerful. 1 Tunneler, this is your Pot of Avarice. This is how you're going to recycle all of your resources every single turn and draw free cards that can get you into hand traps or whatever interaction you need to be able to fend off your opponent and win the game the next turn. 1 Anchor Drill, definitely I think one of the most versatile Infinite Track monsters in the deck because it can do so much with being level 4. It also has the level combination effect Harvester has, which means this plus a level 5 like Brutal Dozer, Tunneler, or Trencher becomes level 9, which helps you go into things like Earth Slicer, which is a very powerful go second card. Its ability to special summon from hand has like it's a very niche extender, and there's some hands where if you like already open Harvester, you're going to search this off of something like Heavy Forward and be able to do different plays from there. But yeah, Anchor Drill just also being a good play with Ancient Gear Box, so you can make Dingirsu, who's a super good part of going second with this deck, or really your 3rd turn after going first. But yeah, so these are the Infinite Track monsters. We are running 10 total Infinitracks, and I've played 9 by running 1 Trencher. However, the more I test this deck, the more I do like the second one for either follow-up or the ability to search multiple times off a box or anything like that, just another Dozer summon. It's a really good card, and I do recommend playing 2 Trencher. 3 Metal Cruncher. This is my favorite starter in the deck because he can search so much more than your standard combo. Like if you don't have Dozer, you can search 3 Dozer and it's basically a harvester. But if you already have Dozer, it means you can go into multiple different plays based on your hand. You can either try to search a level 10 Train to end your board with Super Dora, or go for Gustav Max Liebe OTK. Or you can get things like Fortress to be an extender. It just has so much more like utility than Harvester does, being able to search any Earth machine. And yeah, just a super huge body. If it's summoned off Overdrive, it can chain block your Citadel. It's also level 9, so if Fortress is in your graveyard, you can just straight up pitch this for Fortress, which is very nice. And yeah, Metal Cruncher, my favorite starter in the deck, and arguably the strongest one. Yeah, very, very powerful card. Then we have 2 Machina Fortress. So personally, this is my favorite card in the entire deck. I think this card is bonkers. Some lists play 1. I think this card is very, very good at going second and breaking boards or baiting negates. It just has so many effects in one card. It's pretty much like an infinite extender, which is very powerful. His level is relevant for Harvester because it's how you make Enter Blathnir. This card is so insane, and until you like test with this deck, it's very hard to see how just good this card is. But in testing, like 1 was just never enough for me. And this also technically means you open Enter Blathnir play more often without just redeployment, which is nice, but that's not the reason I play 2. I play 2 to have 2 of them, as well as be able to search it off like Metal Cruncher more often if that ever arises. It rarely does, but it can. So yeah, and then we have 1 Citadel. This is the strongest card in the deck, probably. This is where everything is trying to lead you, is to get to Citadel, either through Overdrive or pitching it for Fortress off of like summoning Fortress, or ditching it with redeployment, or sending it to grave or hand with Riverstormer. You want to get this in grave because it is essentially a battle butler that like revives itself constantly, it just presents such a huge problem for your opponent to deal with. And this is the card that most people would say is like the most overtuned card for Earth Machine, is this, because it is just super powerful and can just wipe boards. And it's not phase restricted, which is super good. Like, it's such a powerful card. Then we have 1 Dairy Crane and 1 Super Express Bullet Train. I call him Seb because it's a little easier. This is a super fun package in the deck because it lets you make cards like Super Dora, like Gustav Max, and go into Juggernaut Liebe. These are so searchable either through Metal Cruncher or Riverstormer. And rank 10 plays are broken. Like, ending your first turn board with Super Dora is almost always game because it ensures you live, it provides an interrupt, and it's just such a powerful card with 4,000 defense. And Dairy Crane can also chain block, which is important to play around like Gamma or other negation effects. And Super Express Bullet Train is part of your main combo, and it's going to constantly replenish your resources. And during your opponent's turn when you send this to grave, you can like add back box search, Anchor Drill, and you have Dingirsu set up for your next turn. Super powerful cards, only 1 of each, because you have a lot of high level monsters and you don't really want to end up flooded with them and not have a play. And then the 1 Ancient Gear box that you have to play, it has 3 targets, being Anchor Drill, Tunneler, and Trencher, and you just search this off Ballista. It's multiple cards to pitch it for Fortress, or just use plays like Anchor Drill box into Dingirsu. For hand traps, it's changed a little bit since last format. I was playing Imperm. Now I'm not, because I think Imperm definitely gets less good. Decks I think that'll be good are obviously like Tri-Brigade, Sky Striker, Prank Kids, Adignisters. These are very, very good, and the hand traps sort of reflect what I think might be good against them. I don't run many, but yeah, I do run the ones I think will be the best. And Ash Blossom, I feel like she's less impactful than last format, but definitely still good. We are at the start of a new format where we don't really know what's the best. But Ash Blossom, generically super good, at least at the start of the format. I think I will still be running 3 Ash. But looking at like theory, I think Ash might not actually be as mandatory as she has been for the last, I don't know, 7 billion years. And then 2 Ghost Bell. This is the hand trap I think is bonkers this format. It seems so good versus everything, as well as protecting your own cards. This protects you from Cyframe Gear Gamma, from Called by the Grave, from like Shark Cannon, from Ice Dragon's Prison. These super powerful cards that can really hinder your strategy. like Huaquero. Ghost Belt is so good against him. She can also negate Mechaba in very weird situations, which is important to note. But also against other decks like Sanguine, Nadir Servant, Invocation, Prank Kids Doodle Doo. This card just stomps Prank Kids in that situation. Tri-Brigade Revolt. This card is insane. And like, of course, the Drytron matchup that I failed to mention. Yeah, I think Ghost Belt is bonkers, awesome. I kind of want to play 3 of her, but space is very tight. I'm at a 41 card list. You can easily go above 40 cards in Earth Machine because you just need to see one of your billion 1-card starters. But to optimize seeing a 1-card starter, I'm playing 41 right now, but that might change because there's a couple cards I want to run. I was playing a much more trap-heavy build last format and saw a lot of success with it, and I've cut down on some traps this format because personally I don't think Torrential is going to be that good. But yeah, I will explain more of that when I get to the traps. 3 Machina Redeployment, just the best starter, absolutely fantastic. It's your whole Entry Blast near play and make sure you can play it. It searches 2 cards, I mean that's insane. 3 Heavy Forward, this is simply a tanky for your Infinitrack cards. And it has 2 other pretty useful effects to change battle positions or attach itself as a material, helping you get like 6 material Zeus that can't be destroyed by card effects. I think this deck now makes Zeus a little better than even Zodiac do, so that's really nice. But yeah, Heavy Forward, just a tanky, another 1-card starter, bringing the count currently up to like 12 1-card starters. And then we have 13 and 14 here. Of course, this is more for go second. However, this card is insane. And this card makes me feel safe. Like, if you're going first and you're just playing through your combo, you get in a beard, sometimes you might not end on an Earth Machine, and then your overdrives are dead. But having an urgent schedule, make sure you're going to have a machine for your overdrive. But going second, this card's an absolute blowout, so strong. It's also Gamma Deterrent, because say you summon, like, Harvester, and then you get Gamma, well, now they have 2 monsters, and you have 0, and you can urgent schedule on your first turn. And that is very, very impactful. Urgent schedule, definitely a card I want to play. I side it out when I go first, usually, and, you know, it's just a very, very powerful go second card. And then taking place of the Imperms and sort of the other flex spots, these could be hand traps, like Droll and Lockbird or another Bell, but I am playing 3 Chalice. This card was picking up steam at the end of last format, I think, and just the way the format has warped, I think this card is fantastic. If you have Forbidden Droplets, you can choose to play that, and I'm gonna like put the stress on choose, because Chalice actually has merit over Droplets. In some situations this format, against Drytron, you're always gonna want Droplets over it. However, for hitting cards like Winda, Battle Butler, and Shureg, or Ominous Omen, whatever you want to call him, this card is, I think, infinitely superior. Because, especially over Imperm, because a lot of those cards will hit the board after you've summoned a monster, like getting Winda off of Schism or Revolt to interrupt your combo. You're going to have a monster, and Imperm's not going to help you there. However, Chalice can just be chained sort of to stop these cards after they're summoned. Like, you see Winda, you just Chalice her, they bring out Revolt, set up their chain links, or they use Revolt, bring out Shureg, set up their chain links, you just Chalice. It's a super good card, and then you can just draw this off your Tunneler and set it, and it's just like Imperm. I mean, it doesn't negate spells and traps, but it is a monster effect negation. And yeah, I just think Chalice is super, super powerful this format for quite a few matchups. It definitely, like, it's also good versus Battle Butler. You can force them to use him like twice if you have this card. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Chalice right now, and I was sort of like against it when I saw people start playing. I was like, there's just no way this is better than Dropless. But the more I look into the format and the more I see this card in use, I think it's actually a pretty cool tech choice that could be good. Of course, I do kind of want to play Triple Tactics Talents. I have 2 just like sitting there that I want to play, and I could cut 1 Chalice and go to 2 and 2 and play 42, which is something I may test more, but like, there are sometimes tactics won't be able to outwin essentially, and that's what I'm afraid of. But Chalice is a super good card, and you can play Droplets, Imperm, or Chalice over this slot. I am just choosing to play Chalice. And then one of the best card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Called by the Grave. Well, second best card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because the best card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the last card in this deck. 3 Machina Overdrive and 1 Trap Trick. So I was playing 2 Trap Trick last format with both Impermanence and Torrentials. I was playing like 11 trap cards. And, I mean, trap cards are very good in this deck because you draw 2 or 3 cards on your first turn. You set up a pretty... you set up essentially Anger Knuckle and maybe Super Dora, sometimes Enter Blathnir. But then you have to rely on your traps and interrupts like Citadel to get you there. Machina Overdrive has always been the strongest trap in this deck. It restarts your engine with Daigusto Emerald effect. It summons Citadel if you don't have access to him, which is the best effect, because Citadel is your best interrupt and recursion. And that's why we play the trap trick, is just to see Machina Overdrive. And this is the only real traps we play. We do run one more trap, but I cut the Torrentials because it's not great versus Sky Striker. It's not great versus Shaddoll Invoked. It's like good versus Prank Kids. It can be good versus Drytron, usually will be. So it definitely has good matchups, but there's a lot of matchups like Eldritch, Striker, Invoked, where it's just like not great. It's okay versus Tri-Brigade, but I felt comfortable taking out Torrential. I'm playing Chalice over Imperm, so I just cut down traps in general for more hand traps and more interruption cards like Chalice. We will find out how that works, but this is what I think is the best that I can come up with at the start of this ban list. And then one Imperial Order, this is the best card in the game, and yeah, it's too broken, so we're going to run it. You see it in, like, most of the time, you just win. On to extra deck, we are going to have 3 Infinitrack Goliath. You usually just run this guy at 3. Like, some people, when they see the deck for the first time, they don't really understand it. All he really is here for is, 1, to turn your machine monsters into him and put them in grave and get an attack position monster sometimes. But you can also tribute him for Riverstormer, which is super nice to get Riverstormer on your 3rd turn and use Riverstormer from your graveyard. But mostly this is here to fill up your grave to Pot of Avarice and not lose any good resources in the grave. You put 3 of these in grave 1st turn and you send it back with Tunneler, and it makes it very easy to use your Pot of Avarice effect. So 3 Infinitrack Goliath. Then we have 1 Ballista, one of the most important combo pieces because it gets your box, which gets like either Tunneler or Anchor Drill. Very important, and also has a very good effect that can make your opponent's monsters attack 0, which is very relevant to OTK, so keep that in mind. 2 Anger Knuckle, probably the best link in the deck. Well, I mean, that they're all equally good, I guess, because they're all very important. This is your end board, essentially. It just brings back Super Express Bullet Train, helps make rank 10s. Make sure you always get an Earth Machine, because if he's in your graveyard and you like draw Brutal Dozer with no normal summons, you can like send any card you controller in your hand and special him, and then you can Dozer him off. So you're always going to have an Earth Machine accessible if you make this card. So we're running 2. Some lists play 1. I think 2 is what I like because you always want to be able to use his first effect depending on the situation. So, and then 1 BLS. This is like a tech spot. This could be like Gaia Charger or whatever other slot you're thinking about running. But this, with Sky Striker coming back into the meta, like this versus Sky Striker and Eldritch is usually just game. You have so many high-level monsters that this card's very easy to make as long as you haven't locked yourself into Dozer. And that is it for the links. Next up, Xyz, we have the Riverstormer, part of your main combo. Searches any Earth Machine, very, very powerful. 1 Dingirsu for your follow-up play with the box and the Anchor Drill. This card can make 6 Material Zeus very easy, as long as you have access to heavy forward, essentially. So yes, and then he can also protect your cards as well as send stuff. Very, very good card. But he is dark, so you can be locked out of him. The Earth Slicer, Broken Go 2nd card that can also pop your own card, so you can proc Citadel. Mandatory with Earth Slicer, or manually, I didn't mean mandatory. Enter Blathnir for your Enter Blathnir play, and this is really good because your opponent essentially has to deal with your board with 5 cards instead of 6. And then we have the Train package. We have Super Dora, Gustav Max, and Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Juggernaut Liba, as if that isn't a mouthful. This package is my favorite in the extra deck because these cards are so blatantly powerful. Gustav Max into Liba is almost always game when you make it. It is actually insane how many games I win off just these 2 cards. And Super Dora, I love ending my first turn board with because I think my win rate when I end Super Dora is 100%. I've played this deck for like 7 straight weeks, and there might be 1 or 2 games where I made Super Dora first turn and didn't win. Like, he boosts your win rate so high. He's absolutely absurd. And yeah, that's the Train package. And then Zeus, I think if any deck's going to give Zodiac a run for their money as far as the Zeus making deck, this deck can actually make it naturally without even going into battle phase. You can attach Goliaths to this card, heavy forwards to this card, make this card not be able to be destroyed by card effects. And if you're making 6 Material Zeus, this is the deck to do it in. But I actually don't make Zeus often because usually you're way up on advantage and you don't even need to blow up boards. Zeus comes up for me very infrequently, but he's definitely very useful. So that is like 1, 2, 3, 4 cards in the extra deck you can't make if you're locked into Earth Machines. And these are the only cards where the effective Dozer comes up, so that's important to note. Onto the side deck pretty quickly because it's locals dependent, but this is what I think, if regionals were to still exist, this is what I would initially bring to a regional because I've built it to what I think are going to be the best decks in the format. 1 Pankratops, because he is just one of the best cards you can play in your side deck. 3 Droll, with Drytron definitely being one of the best decks in the meta, along with Sky Striker coming back. This card is just seeming very, very good. And yeah, I mean, and Shaddoll Invoked also look like one of the best decks in the format, and Droll is something you definitely want to have in your extra deck. I think he's going to be a star of this format, kind of like he was last format, and how he's been for a pretty decent amount of time. Like with Drytron in the format, there's just no way you're not playing 3 Droll. And then 2 Gamma Seal. I'm not playing Dark Ruler no more in the side deck because I feel like there's not any super huge negate your entire board sort of boards this format. So you can use this to out the very like obvious problem cards like Herald of Ultimateness. You just give them a Gamma Seal. Against Sky Striker, you give them a Gamma Seal, shut off, like get rid of their monster and shut off all of their spells because they have a monster in the main. Monsters on this card, it just destroys Sky Striker. You out Dragoon, you out Battle Butler, you out like just the very problem cards. If they make a natural window and you just give them a Gamma Seal, right? So I think this card will be enough this format, and you don't really need Dark Ruler. Time will tell, but I think Gamma Seal is looking like the star of this format. If Bird Up becomes popular, then you can run Godarla, but I just am not super afraid of Bird Up because it doesn't look like it's being played, but change these to Godarlas should Bird Up come up. And then we have 2 Twin Twister, Harpy's Feather Duster, and Red Reboot for back row destruction. I mean, Pankratops as well. But yeah, these 4 are just to blow out back row decks. I mean, they're very good versus, these 3 are very good versus Sky Striker, and Red Reboot is like game 90% of the time because you'll just make Juggernaut Liba and kill them. And then for go first stuff, we have 3 Anti-Spell. Very good versus, I mean, like, it's kind of iffy this format because it's super good versus Shaddoll Invoked and Striker. But Tri-Brigade can play without spells, Drytron can play without spells, although this can hurt both of those decks. I think Anti-Spell is one of the best floodgates this format, hands down, with the Imperial Order in the main deck. Also negating cards like, or not negating, but deterring cards like Lightning Storm and Harpy's Feather Duster to blow up your back row, or any annoying spells like Triple Tactics Talents they could have had to break your board. Anti-Spell is a very, very powerful go first card, and we're going to maximize it at 3 for this format. And then 2 goes in match, you playing like essentially nothing but Earth. This versus Tri-Brigade and Prank Kids and Adignisters is just almost straight up game. If you do play against the random dinosaur deck, this card is almost always game. Versus Alistair, this card can be very, very good. If they normal summon Alistair, you flip goes in match. That's very nice. Goes in match, I think last format was a star in my side deck. Every time I saw it, it was pretty much almost always game. I don't know if it will be that amazing this format because of Drytron it does nothing, and Eldritch it does nothing, but I think it has potential, and that is my side deck. Very in-depth deck profile, so I hope you did enjoy. If you have questions or you want to leave suggestions, leave those down in the comments below. Feel free to check out our Discord and our Twitter down in the comments below as well, and thanks for watching, and this was Top Tier Gaming. Bye, YouTube.